welcome to the 106th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaeffer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, you're in for a treat, as always. But you know what? Brian Dean, I ran across this guy actually on another guy's podcast a while back, and this has taken me too long to get this podcast out. I interviewed him back in November. I was actually in Phoenix at the Infusionsoft Partner Conference, and Brian's overseas in Germany, at least when I did the interview. So we did it over a conference call, had to export it. But I had a lot of interviews lined up, and this is where he fell in the order. But I'm going to be doing more work with him. His advice on SEO is unbelievable. So you are going to want to pay attention. You're going to want to visit the download of this, where you can get the links and the things that I mentioned at thesaleswhisper.com/Brian-Dean. You can see the notes, the questions we ask, and a link out to him on Twitter and his website. But Brian's got a great story, and he admits, he was kind of cutting corners, maybe doing a little bit of the black hat SEO stuff, and he talks about how he got wiped out not once but twice by Google updates. He was making little bitty sites, playing the game, getting ranked, but then he got popped. And then he went legit, if you will. And his success is phenomenal. He holds nothing back. He gives some great advice. So if you have been wondering what this whole SEO thing is all about, what does it mean in 2015, then this is the episode for you. So get ready to hit the pause button quite often so you can take some notes and enjoy this interview with Brian Dean. Brian Dean, Backlinko, all the way from Berlin, Germany. You may be I think I've had an Australian, but I think you may be my first international podcast guest, man. Welcome to the show.
Well, guten Tag, Wes. It's good to be here.
Hey, don't use that kind of language with me. This is a family show.
Well, I'm not German, as you can probably tell. And I won't translate that. I didn't realize this was a family-friendly show. But as you can probably guess, I'm not German. But I appreciate the efficiency. I will say that.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Hey, I drive a BMW, man. I love it. It's
nice.
It is a driving machine, and I do drive it.
Cool.
So for those that don't know you, though, would you mind take a second or two, give us a little insights into who you are and what you do, and then we'll go down the rabbit hole?
Sounds good. So I'm Brian Dean, the founder of Backlinko.com, and we are an SEO training company that helps people get more traffic using SEO.
Hey, easy enough. So how did you get into that?
Well, I kind of got into it by doing this whole niche site thing. My first foray into internet marketing was some information product, but I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of sales, and I didn't know how to sell a product online.
Okay.
When I'd never built a site in my life, it's kind of hard to do that and sell a product and do customer support and all that stuff. So I eventually gravitated towards this whole niche site thing that was really big at the time. I don't know if you remember this. This is probably 2009.
Okay.
And this is when people were just like, don't create a real business, just make these little crappy sites, rank them in Google, and put AdSense on them, and you'll be rich. Mm-hmm. And I fell into that. I fell into that hard. I thought, wow, why would you go through all this trouble of creating a product and having customers and all that nonsense when you can just create these one-page sites, rank them in Google, get great high-quality traffic quickly, and monetize them with AdSense. So there's no back end. And that didn't work for a number of reasons, most of which Google didn't like it. And in 2010, they rolled out an update called Panda that basically wiped all of them out. It had 175 of these one-page niche sites, which stung. So my next approach was, okay, instead of 175 one-page crappy sites, I'll create five-page, slightly less crappy sites, because that's the future of SEO now. It's not these single-page sites. It's the 5-page sites. That's the future. And then in April of 2012, Penguin rolled out, and that basically wiped those sites out. And right after then, there was a huge, huge opportunity in pretty much every niche. And I wish that at the time I had realized it more. But I'm glad I did take advantage of it somewhat, because after Penguin, a lot of sites that were doing SEO were reeling. basically it was almost like there was a blank page on the first page of Google. It was so easy to rank with white hat stuff because all these guys have been doing black hat, and anyone that was doing white hat even remotely well was able to blast by them. I mean, I built a site from literally a blank WordPress installation to a $10,000 a month earner in 3 months using white hat, just because it was such a wide open space. It was like the Wild West.
Right.
No one knew how to do SEO anymore. And I wish then I just went all in, but at least I did with that one site, and it obviously did really well. And that led me to believe that, hey, maybe I know something about this whole SEO thing,
right,
because it hadn't, not only were most businesses struggling with it, but also SEO blogs were like, all the advice we gave the last couple of years is now crap.
Mm-hmm.
We can't. What do we tell people? Mm-hmm. So I was having trouble finding good SEO stuff online. So then I created basically the blog that I wanted to read, and that's how Backlinko was born.
Very cool. So how did you? I want to get into SEO, of course, but how did you have the confidence to launch your own thing? Like you said, you created the blog, you wanted to read. I mean, I get into this all the time with clients. People always underestimate the value they bring to the world. And so they don't create the blog that they would want to read. They don't create the tool that they wish they had. I mean, how did you have the confidence to say, I'm going to put myself out there, and I think people will come?
Well, a lot of it was that I saw other people putting out SEO stuff and doing well, and I was like, I know as much as they do.
Right.
That being said, I put the decision off for a long time. I had the same feeling that these guys, I put them on a pedestal, these SEO gods, they knew so much about SEO. What did I know? I just built one site and it did well. Maybe I was lucky. But over time, when I really got into their stuff, I realized on a post-to-post level, I could outdo what they were doing. And once I think I realized that, it was more like, I have to do this. There's a huge opportunity right now, and I got to go for it, similar to After Penguin. And that's really, it wasn't so much a confidence like, oh, I know this is going to crush it. I was totally surprised when the site did well, and especially how it's doing now.
Right.
I was like shocked the entire time. Still am, to be honest with you, when I wake up. But it wasn't like, oh, yeah, this is going to do great. It was like, oh, let me give this a try and see how it goes. So I didn't go in it. I didn't go with 2 Fit In with this whole project. It was kind of a side project to start with.
Gotcha. And that's an important distinction. I'm glad you brought that up, because even when I started the Sales Whisperer, I was married, and I think I got to think back. We just had our 7th kid, so I think I had 4 or 5. I got to do the math. I couldn't just jump in. And like, okay, this will work, or I'll just go on welfare. I mean, I had a family to support, right? So right. I built it on the side until I could really monetize it and go out on my own. So, so I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think building on the side, a lot of people use that as an excuse to not work hard.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, you're not that guy, and I'm not that person. But a lot of people are like, well, it's just a side project. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it was a side project, but I took it really seriously. I didn't do it. I almost had it where I had 2 main projects as opposed to a main project and a side project. You know what I mean? It was when I wasn't working on that, I was working on this. And a lot of people use side projects as a mental excuse to be like, well, it's just a side project. No, it's like, well, if you're going to do it, do it. Yep. And do it right. So when I built it, it didn't feel like a side project. It felt like another huge one that I was taking on in addition to my main thing.
Exactly. Because I was
just kind of wanted to throw that out there.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you did, because I was a W-2 employee, right? So I was a sales guy traveling around, but I made the conscious decision. It's like, okay, my company will get my time and brain from 9 to 5. Right. But after that, especially being on the road, it was easier to neglect my family, right? Because I was already on the road. So I could get to my hotel at 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever, and put in 6 or 7 hours, work till midnight, 1 o'clock on my stuff, and get up and do the day job. And then, but even when I was home, nights and weekends, pounding this stuff out to build up something that could support us, on their own full time.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad it didn't wait until, the time was perfect.
Yeah, it's never perfect. I always hear that, oh, we'll get married when it's better, or we'll have a kid when it's better. Look, it's never going to be perfect, Pull the trigger and ride the bullet.
It's probably better now. Yeah, I'm with, definitely.
So what are some SEO nuggets you can share? Because I'm kind of like you. I mean, I just self-taught myself WordPress back in starting in about 2009, about the same time as you, early 2009. I started reading about SEO, and I feel I am very competent in SEO for my own stuff, but like I don't teach it. I'm not a guru, But what do people need to do? Let's assume that they're kind of new to SEO. What are some fundamentals people need to get right when they're starting out?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think to do well, you can do great at SEO by being competent. You don't need to be some expert to succeed with it. SEO gurus, who definitely not me, have done a great job of complicating the hell out of SEO and making it sound like you need a PhD to do it. Mm-hmm. And you don't. There's all sorts of things you can learn. I mean, you can dive into it. It's a very complicated field if you want it to be. You can learn about canonical tags and things like that. But for me, I like to keep things super simple. A huge mantra in my business is just keep it simple. So the SEO is the same exact thing. For me, the number one thing that someone who's starting out should learn is keyword research, because everything in SEO revolves around keywords. If you don't have keywords, you're not doing SEO. Yep. So that's key, because not only do keywords give you an idea of kind of what you should write about, which is great for content creation, but and also you rank for certain keywords so you can find those maybe less competitive and you can rank easier for them. But it also somewhat determines who's going to find your site. Mm-hmm. And what it comes down to is you can rank for a keyword, number one, and get tons of traffic. But if they're not buyers, then you just wasted a lot of energy. You want to really target keywords that have some search volume, but more importantly, are keywords that people who are going to be leads and sales for you are going to search for in Google. Right. You can actually don't have to guess with that. Of course, some of them are obvious. Someone puts like buy some product. Obviously, that's a buyer keyword, right? Versus like download for free. That's a cheapskate. Now, those are the two extremes. But you can tell, even with some that may not be so clear, is that if you use a tool called the Google Keyword Planner, mm-hmm. which is free, you just need an AdWords account, it shows you how much you should bid on that keyword. It's called suggested bid. Yep. And basically, the higher that is, the more money is in that keyword, because that's what people are actually in real life bidding on. Right. For that same traffic. So if someone's paying $5 a click, there's probably some money to be made with that visitor.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So you're not saying people should do PPC. You're saying if somebody is spending money on a keyword, then that's a high-value word. They should use that in their content creation.
Exactly. Right? If it's a good fit for what you sell, right? Sure. If you have both those things, absolutely. You can also, if you search in Google and you see that there's just a ton of ads, like above the fold and on the right-hand side, that's also a sign. There's people bidding on this keyword. People are paying money every single hour of every day mm-hmm. to get that visitor. So that's a good keyword. If you search and there's no ads and the estimated cost per click is 10 cents, even if it's not competitive and a lot of people search for it, it's probably not worth your time. Yeah, you can pat yourself on the back and say, oh, I rank number one, and it looks cool for you. But in terms of your bottom line, it doesn't actually make any difference. So I think keyword research is one of those things that if you're going to dive into one element of SEO and get really, dive deep into it, that would be the one. Because if you know keyword research, you're already 90% of the way ahead of most other people in SEO. And actually have a shameless plug for a free guide. So there's nothing, not like I'm selling anything. I am, but not that. If you go to backlinko.com, there's a keyword research guide there. It's 7 chapters, super thorough, basically walks you through all the things like how to brainstorm for keywords, what tools to use, how to evaluate the competition, how to evaluate the monetization potential, how to use the keyword planner that I talked about earlier. So super helpful, totally free, no opt-in or anything. So you can go there and check it out, and you'll learn everything literally you need to know about keyword research.
I always tell people, at least if they're old enough to remember going to a library, that SEO is like the Dewey Decimal System for the internet. Right?
Wow, I've never heard that comparison before, because I remember the Dewey Decimal System. Yeah, it had something to do with,
hey,
numbers like.
Don't remind me I'm getting older. That ain't right, man. This conversation's over.
Sorry, I do remember it, so we're not that far apart.
Well, I
I
tell
remember
people,
having to learn it.
yeah, well, it's like you go to the library and you say, hey, librarian, I'm here to write a paper. And they'll look at you and go, what topic? History. Okay, ancient world history, modern history. Ancient world history. Europe or Asia. Asia. Okay, and then as you finally drill down, the librarian says, okay, second floor, fifth shelf over, walk halfway down. It's the third and fourth shelf. Okay, great, and you go get your books, right? Because and that's literally all SEO is, right? Just taking the time to document and name a picture, give it a caption, use a tag, use it in the title, use it in a few paragraphs. At its core, isn't that SEO?
It is at its core. Search engines are actually based on information retrieval systems and libraries.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a very apt comparison. A lot of the concepts that libraries had used before, the internet, but internally to search for stuff, they used like keywords. That's from information retrieval systems and libraries before the internet. So yeah, it's very apt. The only thing is that's sort of the ticket to entry is to once you optimize around the keyword, the issue is that from most keywords, 99% of them, there's 100 other people also optimized around them. Mm-hmm. So it's a good first step, but it's not enough.
All right. So what do they do next?
So the next thing, once you have your keyword, you need to do the sort of Dewey Decimal System where you optimize your page around that keyword without going crazy, without over optimizing, right? Because that's a little bit black hat. So basically in my mind, there's only a few things you need to do to optimize your page. You can also go crazy deep into LSI keywords and semantic search, but basically all you need to do is put your keyword in the title, put your keyword in the URL of your page, and then sprinkle it a couple times throughout the page. And if you have an image, name the image with your keyword as part of it, and the alt text is your keyword as part of it. And you're pretty much done. There's some more bells and whistles you can use, but that's not really necessary. That's going to get you a ticket to the game. Okay. But there's going to be 100 other people who are already doing the same thing. So what separates the wheat from the chaff in Google are the links that are pointing to that page and to your site in general. And that's the rub. That's the most complicated part of SEO. That's the hardest part of SEO, but it's also the most important, other than keyword research.
So it's getting others to link into you, right?
Exactly. That's basically it is the number one ranking factor that Google uses. So once they have these pages that are all optimized, they have to figure out what order to put them in, right? And that's where the links come in, because it's a sign of quality. If you're getting a lot of links pointing to a page, that tells Google that this must be a good page because people are referencing it all the time.
Well, so now that seems more like a marketing issue versus an SEO issue.
In many ways, it is. A lot of people say that in a lot of ways, SEO is a byproduct of great marketing. So if you're doing great marketing, you're going to get people linking to you. And there's also some other signals that Google's using to de-emphasize the importance of links. So they look at brand signals. So how many times people type the sales whisper into Google is a sign that this is a site people are looking for. It's a real site. It's a brand. Right. And they're going to give you a boost for all your keywords because of that. But that's only happened. That has nothing to do with SEO, right? That's all just good marketing. People have it in their head, and then they go and they type it into Google, and Google uses that as a signal. Now, that being said, you'll get more of a boost in SEO if you do active link building just for the purpose of SEO. So if you actually reach out to other people and suggest they link to one of your resources on your site, you're going to do a lot better than if you just do great marketing and hope the links come in. That's a mistake I made early on. I call it the publish and pray approach. Mm-hmm. You just publish, pray, and hope that people link to it. And it sounds nice in theory, but the only problem is 2 million blog posts published every day. Mm. So when you publish, you hit the WordPress publish button, there's 2 million other people doing the same thing. It's really hard to stand out and get links without actively seeking them out.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I guess you got to be careful, though, right? Because they had the whole link farming and all kind of crazy things, and which were in vogue, I guess, in 2007, 8, 9. But you're talking about like like what, having a relationship with somebody and you kind of each talk about each other? I mean,
something. Yeah, I mean, I can get into the nitty gritty of it, but yeah, you got to be careful. Absolutely, Wes. Link building. There's two completely different ways to do it. There's the way that will ultimately probably get you penalized, and the way that won't. And I obviously prefer the way that won't.
Right.
And that approach is more or less creating a great resource on your site, so something that's world class, outstanding, and something that you'd want to show people. You'd be proud to show people that you think people would share. And then you just want to find pages online where a link to your page would make sense. So a lot of times I like to use resource page link building. And what that is basically, you find resource pages in your niche. So if you ran a site about gardening and you had a great article about how to grow tomatoes in the winter, then you'd want to find gardening resource pages. And resource pages are just pages that link out to other resources. That's why they're called links pages. They're called resource pages. Sometimes they're also called links pages. So they're perfect. They exist just to link out. And they also tend to have a lot of authority, because a lot of times you'll notice that people link to the resource pages from other parts of their site, which sends authority to that page.
Okay.
And basically, you're not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You're reaching out and saying, you have this page of resources. I have a resource. You might want to add it. And it's an easy sell. Now, it's sort of a numbers game. You got to email a lot of people, but it's a great approach and it works well. In my opinion, link building and email outreach is more or less the same thing. If you're building links without sending emails out, then you're probably doing something shady.
Yeah. So an example would be maybe like Pat Flynn has a resources page, right? Mm-hmm. So you're saying like reach out to somebody like him and say, hey, I do stuff on blogging, or maybe you, right? Hey, I do SEO. You know, your fans, your listeners could benefit, and get him on his resources page to link to you to get your SEO study guide.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's a great example. You just want to make sure that your resource you don't want to be like, oh, we linked to my site. It needs to be a specific resource, and it needs to be publicly available. So it can't be like behind an email wall or squeeze page or something like that.
Oh,
but yeah,
okay.
Because otherwise it's like, Pat, who doesn't know you from Adam, how does he know that you're not going to do something shady with people's emails? You definitely want to have some like blog post, article, guide, or something like that, that you can pitch as part of your outreach. But yeah, that's cool. And if you want to take it to another level and increase the number of links that you get from this approach, you can check if there are broken links on the page before you reach out. So you go to Pat's guide or Pat's resource page and use a Chrome extension called Check My Links.
Okay.
You run Check My Links, you press a button in your browser, and in about 2 seconds it finds any broken links on the page. And this time, instead of reaching out and saying, Pat, you have a section on your resource page about SEO, I have a guide about SEO, you say, actually, I found a broken link on your resource page about SEO. And the first thing he thinks is like, oh, God, now I have to go replace that. And you go, actually, I have a guide about SEO right here. You can just use that to replace it. And that works great.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, you give to get. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. There are people who just blast emails out, thousands of people, and they ask for a link. And they can do well with that. I mean, at a certain extent, it is a numbers game. If you're serious about link building, you will have to email hundreds of people. It's just the nature of the beast. And I've done it, and it works well. The good thing about it is that once you get a following and once you build some links, you don't have to grind with the emails as much. The other nice thing about link building is that if you're targeting quality sites like Smart Passive Income, these links will also bring you nice referral traffic that's targeted. So you'll actually become less reliant on Google with this style of link building.
Right.
It's always good.
Yeah, I mean, so it kind of gets back to the old adage, give away your best stuff for free up front. Mm-hmm. Right?
Absolutely.
Because you have it. You have like your epic post, they might call it your epic content that people are happy to share and link to and mention. And then it just, karma, basically, right?
It kind of is. You put it out there. I mean, you have to promote it, of course, but you want to a lot of people hold back, especially if you sell information products. Mm-hmm. But what I do, I sell an information product, and what I do is I basically have the information product stuff is in a vault as I look at it. and I don't touch it. You know what I mean? Like that stuff never comes out. But then everything else is free reign, and there's a lot you can write about and add tons of value, even if you sell an information product. So, I always put great stuff out there first, and they also call it the freemium line. You put your free stuff like almost where people should be commenting on your stuff saying, "This is worth money. I would pay for this." Mm-hmm. That's the best compliment you can receive with your content.
Right. How do people get started? How do they know? Should they make an MP3 download or a blog post, or I'm not good at writing, Brian, or I don't know how to make a PDF on my computer to give away. I mean, what do you tell them? Suck it up and just do it?
I think, well, yeah, depends on who's saying it, I guess. If it was Tony Robbins, I probably wouldn't tell him that.
Well, he wouldn't say that, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. He wouldn't say that.
Because he has awoken the giant within.
He woke a lot of people's giants within. I don't know, that sounds kind of weird when I say it like that. I say write. You want to keep it simple at first. If you're just getting started, writing a blog post is the easiest way to do it because it doesn't take any special programming skills or know-how. You just gotta bang on your keyboard and words come out. So I feel like that's kind of your best approach when you're just starting. And also it's good for SEO because Google can't read that stuff. They can't hear your MP3. They can't watch your video. They can't really read your PDF. And if they can, they won't really rank it. So for SEO and for users, people just prefer to read because then they can skim. Podcasts are great, and there's a format for that but that's more advanced. Like you need the equipment and you need to know how to edit it and submit it to iTunes and all this stuff. That's something that if you're far along and you want to do that, then it's a great marketing tool, but definitely not something I would start with. Although John Lee Dumas may argue with me.
Yeah.
Because he just does podcast. He started with a podcast and it did great.
Yeah, he's an Army guy, though. I see him all the time, and Air Force baby. So look, don't listen to John.
Right. Okay. Good advice.
I listen to him all the time.
Don't listen to a word he says.
So I'm on WordPress, and I think pretty much everything you do is WordPress, right?
Right.
Are there some free tools you recommend, like plugins? Like I use, the Yoast, or it used to be all-in-one SEO, or are there some things people need to use that you recommend?
Not really. I think that most themes today have out-of-the-box SEO functionality. Yoast is good. I like Yoast, and I would say it's free. It's great. But I think with SEO, the stuff I talked about in terms of on-page, adding a keyword to your title and your URL, including in the post, you don't even need a plugin for that. Mm-hmm. So I like the Yoast if you're going to use it, but that has a lot of features you'll probably never even touch, and I would never even touch. So I like to keep it super simple. Yeah, you don't need to. There's no kind of magic plugin or a tool that does anything. Right. I mean, it's just a matter of creating something amazing, optimizing around a keyword that buyers search for, and then reaching out to people and getting links. So I just look for tools that can help that process.
Right. So in other words, don't sweat it. Don't try to be perfect. Just start creating great content that you yourself would want to read, and be consistent and give first, and it'll pay off.
Yeah, and optimize it, and then just use the thing what I just said, which is like put it in your title, your URL, and on your page, and then from there you're in the running. Then it's just it's a links game, and that's where great marketing, content promotion, and then also if you want to do that link building, which will get you better results, but it's a lot more work. Mm-hmm. You can do that too. But yeah, it doesn't. Like I said, these SEO guys who like to make it sound like it's rocket science, but I'd say it's more like auto repair. It's right. It's pretty complicated, but you basically need to know how to change your tire and your muffler, and you have everything in terms of SEO that you need to know. You don't need to know how to, swap out a carburetor, something like that. It doesn't have to be as complicated. Now I love it, and I've found, and it's a great traffic source for me and my business. So I need to know it really well. But if you just want to add it to part of what you're doing, right. You probably, just listening to this, you probably already know pretty much everything you need to know. If you take action on this stuff, you're going to be good.
Right. So like on the link resources, I mean, who do people reach out to, right? Like let's say I'm cooking, I'm into healthy cooking, and I write some epic blog post, do I try to get Rachel Ray to mention me, or do I find maybe like the local chef, that has a little local TV show to mention me first? I mean, can you try to go too big too soon, or do you say shoot for the moon?
You kind of can. I mean, the thing is with email outreach, especially with a resource page. I mean, if you found Rachel Ray had a resource page and it had a category that fit perfectly with what you just wrote, why not? It takes 2 seconds to send the email. So I say go for it. I don't think you're not going to burn bridges as long as you're not pushy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what I'll even do if it's a big name, what I'll do is I'll be like, hey, Rachel, I just found your awesome resource pages guide. I actually just published a resource about, cooking. Do you want to check it out? Uh-huh. So that way I'm kind of leaving it up to them. If they're not interested, they ignore it or say no, and I never email them again.
Right.
And if they say yes, then you can send them a link. So that's more of the conservative approach. I like to just kind of pitch right off the bat in most cases. But a lot of times it makes more sense just to be like, do you want to check it out? And then even when you send it to them, you never ask for a link. I've never asked for a link. You just send it to them and you say, here you go. And because it's in the context of the resource page, they know they think resource page, this guide, and if they think it's a good fit, they'll come to the conclusion that they're themselves. And as you know, when someone thinks they came to their own conclusion, it's a lot more powerful than if you told them what to do. And it's the same idea. So you don't really need to ask for a link. You could just be like, just show it to people in the context of the page you want your link on.
Right.
And in that discussion, it'll come naturally. They'll put the pieces together. It's not so hard.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
So what are you doing in Germany?
Just hanging out, man. Eating schnitzel.
You just wanted to go? I mean, it was just kind of like a life goal kind of thing?
Not really. I don't know how I found myself here. It's like I woke up one day, I was here, and I'm like, well, this isn't so bad. I can just stay. It's not really Germany so much. I mean, I like Germany, but it's Berlin that I really love. The city's so great.
Gotcha.
I'd been traveling around for a while, sort of bumming around as a backpacker. I wanted a place to stay and actually, build more of a real business. And I was in the neighborhood, so I stopped over here. I was in Europe, so I just stopped over. Really, really liked the city, and I also had read that the visa was easy to get, and that turned out to be true. So, if I wanted to live in France or something, it's like the visa is insanely hard to get, and you have to go through a bunch of nonsense. And here, I just showed up and was like, "Hey, can I stay for a year?" And they gave me a visa. Mm-hmm. It's pretty easy, yeah. So, and it doesn't hurt that the city's nice and livable and has a startup scene. It's a great city. Germany's cool. I honestly haven't seen a ton of the country. But, so mostly it's Berlin.
Yeah, cool. Very nice, man. Well, thank you for taking the time. Where do we send people to learn more about you?
Well, the best place you can go to find me is backlinko.com.
Okay.
And then hop on the newsletter so you can get a bunch of exclusive traffic strategies that I only share with subscribers.
And I'm getting your stuff, and I like it.
Cool, thanks.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
All right, Wes. Sure, my pleasure.
Okay.
Good luck.
Great day.
When he got tired of gaming the system, remember, he created the blog he wanted to read. One of the things I've always told people in my sales training and marketing and selling of tools and platforms is be a product of the product. Okay? If you sell Fords and you pull up on the lot in a Chevy, it's just not going to work quite as well. I remember hearing the story of Zig Ziglar when he talked about there was a guy that was a really good at least a good potential salesperson. He worked hard. He just never had the great results. And Zig told him, you know what your problem is? And they were selling, basically they were like a network marketing company, if you will, or like a Pampered Chef kind of, right? Where they would come to you and do those in-home cooking demonstrations. But this guy did not own the cookware. And he always had an excuse, money was tight, or the kids were sick, or we needed a new refrigerator. He always had an excuse. And because of that, he always accepted excuses from the prospects. And so he didn't make the sale. And Zig told him, go out and buy yourself a set of cookware right now. And when he did, his sales blew up because he was a product of the product. He saw truly how good they were. He lived it, and he had the stories to tell, and those stories sold. So Brian did the same thing, right? He became a product of the product. He created the blog. He wanted to read. He didn't create no games. It was all above board, all white hat, and then things took off. So that was, 2012, 2013. Not very long ago. And he's just on top of the world. Make sure you understand Google's keyword planner. Make sure you start off with knowing the keyword you're writing about, okay? And then you create that. You make that happen. In the naming by the title, the description, the alt tag, name your pictures, name your videos. Okay, use that keyword and then sprinkle it in your content. You don't have to overdo it because remember, human beings are reading the stuff you're creating. Yes, they're being indexed by robots. Okay, but even Google is smart enough to know if you're overdoing it. So use the keyword enough times that it gets found, right? So you can get indexed. But at the end of the day, human beings are reading this and you want to connect with them so they opt in or they take the next step or they buy from you. Okay, but always start with your research. And these tools are free. Google's Keyword Planner is free. Okay, make sure you're looking at the suggested bid like he spoke about. That'll again put you head and shoulders above the competition. Okay, and then focus on getting your inbound links. That's it, all right, in a nutshell. Obviously, there's nuances. Google's always changing the game because there's always guys trying to cheat the system, right, creating these black hat programs. So plug in, tune in to what Brian's doing, stay on top of things so you can stay ahead of the curve. And as long as you keep doing that, you'll stay ahead of the competition. And you know what? Selling is a zero-sum game when it comes to competition. You and the prospect should create a win-win, but you and your competition, if you're just 1% better, you get 100% of the sale. Okay? And that is your goal, believe it or not, is to put your competition out of business. Okay? Obviously not doing anything dirty or underhanded or even violent. You're just staying ahead of them. Okay, putting in the effort, putting in the brain power, surrounding yourself with great people, taking time to listen to podcasts like this and educate yourself. And if your competition does not keep up, that's their fault. Okay, let them go find an industry or a region where they can support their clients. And that's not on you. Okay. As always, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. And if you need more help selling, check out 30daysalesgrowth.com. Enter the keyword, the promo code podcast. Save yourself a few bucks. Thanks for listening. And always remember, sell different.